This fake HOA cop really thought he could walk onto my property, bark orders at my wife, and hit her across the face when she refused to let him inside. The sight of her holding her cheek, shaking on the porch while he stood there pretending he had authority, that was the moment something in me snapped, and he was about to learn exactly how badly he'd messed up. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. My name is Marcus, and my wife's name is Talia. We'd only lived in this neighborhood for 7 months, and I swear the HOA here must have been bored out of their minds. They sent more letters in half a year than the bank did during our mortgage process. Half the time, the warnings didn't even make sense. Your grass is too green. Your fence is exactly half an inch taller than regulation. Your welcome mat is the wrong shade of brown. At first, we laughed it off. Every neighborhood has that one person with a clipboard and too much time on their hands. What we didn't know was that ours didn't carry a clipboard. He carried a uniform. About 3 months after we moved in, Talia told me a man had shown up claiming to be part of something called HOA compliance enforcement. Said he needed to check our living areas for unauthorized appliances. We both thought it was ridiculous. HOAs don't inspect microwaves, but the man came back the next week and the next, and the next. Each visit, he got braver. At first, it was just knocking, then it became banging, then tapping on windows in the early morning. She told him every single time, no, you're not coming inside, but he kept insisting he had rights and that non-compliance was an infraction. I was at work most days, so she was the one dealing with it. When I asked to see his credentials, he always dodged, saying the HOA didn't issue physical badges for safety reasons. Right, that should have been the first red flag. This morning, before everything exploded, I was in the garage fixing a loose panel on one of the shelves. Talia stepped out to water the small plants by the porch, and that's when he appeared again. Uniform, vest, fake confidence and all. She told him she was tired of this and to leave us alone. She told him we already reported his visits to the HOA office. She told him he wasn't coming inside. Not today. Not ever. That's when he snapped. I didn't hear the whole exchange. I only heard her voice rise, a startled, "Don't touch me," and then the hard, sickening smack of his hand across her cheek. By the time I got around the corner, she was clutching her face, eyes wide and shimmering with tears. And he stood there like he was proud of himself. He didn't even flinch when he saw me. He just folded his arms and said, "Your wife is obstructing an inspection." Obstruction? Inspection? He really thought this was a game. I didn't say a word. I just walked up, grabbed him by the vest, and felt my pulse go from hot to volcanic, because this wasn't going to end peacefully. My fist was already pressed into the side of his throat, the fabric of his cheap black vest bunched up in my grip. His breath hitched, but he still tried to hold that fake authority stance. Chin up, chest out, like he was someone who mattered. "You're assaulting an HOA enforcement officer," he croaked, trying to push my arm away. No badge, no ID. Just the words HOA cop cheaply printed on a vest he probably ordered online. "You're not an officer," I growled. "And you're sure as hell not walking away after hitting my wife," he smirked. Actually smirked, like I wasn't seconds away from ending him. "I have every right to conduct an in-home inspection. Your wife obstructed it, and you'll both be fined heavily for." He made the mistake right there. He pointed toward the door behind me, like he was still planning to get inside. I slammed him back against the post so hard the wood cracked. Talia let out a shaky sob behind me. Hearing her cry like that made something ugly rise in my chest, something I usually keep buried deep, something this man should have hoped never surfaced. He tried pushing off the post again, wheezing as he shoved at my chest. "Move," he barked, like he had any authority left. "I am entering the home. Resistance will be—" I grabbed his right wrist, twisted, and drove his arm up behind his back. His scream tore through the neighborhood. He clawed at the siding with his free hand, kicking at my shin, desperate. I twisted harder. The first snap came sharp and fast. His knees buckled instantly. He collapsed onto them, gasping, shaking, the shock hitting him before the full pain settled in. Talia covered her mouth, tears streaking her cheeks, trembling all over. The fake cop tried to yank his other arm free to pull away, but his panic only made him sloppy. I snatched that arm too and bent it backward. He begged then, weak, pathetic pleas that didn't sound anything like the man who slapped my wife minutes ago. The second crack was louder than the first. He screamed again, collapsing face first onto the concrete. His legs kicked weakly, but there was no strength left in his body. I stood above him, chest rising and falling, vision blurred from adrenaline. "What did you think was going to happen?" I said quietly. "You put your hands on her." The street wasn't quiet anymore. Neighbors stood frozen on porches. A few had their phones out, recording everything. Some whispered to each other. Others stared wide-eyed at Talia's bruised cheek. And then I heard hurried footsteps. 3 HOA board members came rushing down the sidewalk like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Their eyes widened the moment they saw their enforcer sprawled across my porch, limbs twisted wrong. "Marcus, stop!" one shouted. "Please, he's one of ours. He's authorized," another yelled, voice cracking. Authorized. To hit my wife, to force his way into my home, they crouched beside him, but none dared come near me. One grabbed his phone, dialing 911 with shaky fingers. "We need an ambulance," he stuttered. "And police." "Good. Call everyone. Let them see what your hired thug has been doing." I stepped back, watching the fake officer whimper on the ground, the board members scrambling around him like scared children. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. Police sirens echoed down the street faster than I expected. By the time the first cruiser rolled up, the fake HOA cop was lying on his stomach, both arms bent in ways arms shouldn't bend, and the HOA board was pacing around him like they were trying to decide whether to run or faint. 2 officers stepped out, hands near their holsters, eyes darting between the crowd, my wife's swollen cheek, and the useless heap on my porch. "What happened here?" the first officer asked. Before the HOA board could open their lying mouths, they pointed at me like synchronized snakes. "He attacked our officer. He broke his arms. Both of them. He's unstable. Arrest him." I didn't even bother arguing. I just lifted my hand toward the door. "Before you listen to anything," I said calmly, "I want to show you something." The officers followed me inside. Talia came with us, still shaking, still holding her cheek, still terrified. I opened the Ring camera feed on the TV and rewound it to just 5 minutes earlier. There it was, clear as day. The slap, the shove, the moment he tried to force his way into our home. The room went silent except for the video audio. The first officer exhaled slowly. "Well, that answers that." We went back outside and their whole tone changed instantly. One officer kneeled down beside the fake cop, checking the vest, patting him down. He turned the fabric inside out. "No ID?" he muttered. "No badge? No serial? Nothing." The other officer shook his head. "This isn't law enforcement gear. This is cosplay." The HOA board froze like statues. "What's your name?" one officer asked the man on the ground. He whimpered. Grant Lowell. "And who do you work for?" He pointed at the HOA board with a trembling finger. "Them. They hired me. They told me to do compliance checks to scare people into paying fines." The neighborhood erupted with gasps. One HOA board member panicked. "He's lying. He misunderstood." But Grant kept talking, desperate to save himself. "The president, Karen, she forged the authorization. Told me to act like I had the right to enter homes. Said if people resisted, to apply pressure." "Apply pressure?" I repeated, my voice low. Talia flinched. The officers stood up, looking at the HOA board with ice in their eyes. "All right, everyone involved in this little operation is coming with us. Fraud, impersonation, assault, harassment. We'll let the detectives sort the stack of charges." One board member burst into tears. Another tried to run, but 2 neighbors blocked the sidewalk. No one was protecting them anymore. Grant was loaded into the ambulance, cuffed to the stretcher. He'd be arrested the moment he woke up. The HOA board was handcuffed on my lawn. Karen screamed the whole time while being cuffed. No one cared. When the officers came back to me, their posture softened. "Marcus, you're clear. This is textbook defense of your wife. You did what any husband would have done." Talia leaned into me, exhausted, finally safe. Within a week, the whole community turned on the HOA. Emergency elections, lawsuits, public apologies. The entire operation collapsed overnight. People who once ignored us now thanked us for exposing what no one had dared to question. By the end of the month, every board member faced criminal charges. Grant, fake cop, fake authority, fake tough guy, got exactly what he deserved. Doctors kept him in the hospital for 9 full weeks, rebuilding his shattered arms and repairing the ligament damage in his shoulders. And once he was stable enough to stand, the judge handed him a brutal sentence: 6 years in state prison and a $25,000 fine for impersonation, assault, and attempted home invasion. As for me, I looked at Talia one night, brushed her cheek gently, and promised her, "No one will ever touch you again, not while I'm breathing. And if another so-called HOA cop ever shows up, let's just say I'm ready." And that's how the HOA found out the worst mistake they could ever make is thinking they can walk into my home uninvited and slap my wife and walk out unharmed. What do you think, folks? Did I do the right thing? Or did I do what any husband would have done? What would you have done if a fake HOA cop slapped your wife? I would love to know. The end.